Thank you. Good evening to everyone. I'd like to welcome you to fiscal year 2023 budget discussion meeting. This is the Ways and Means Committee of the Greenfield City Council. It is Thursday, March 31st, 2022, and it is now 6 o'clock. So I will call the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded and videotaped by the Ways and Means Committee and by GCTV 15. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Okay, we'll do a roll call. Councillor Jarvis.
Here.
Councillor DeSorga.
Here.
Councillor Healy.
Here.
Councillor Toronzo.
Here.
Okay, and I am here. Chris Forgy. We have a full quorum this evening. There are no minutes that need to be approved. There's no public hearing this evening. We do have an item that is on our item 5, which is budget discussion. Before we begin that, I do want to tell people that we have a little bit of a detour in our meeting this evening. I have spoken with a couple of individuals, including our city clerk, the mayor, and Liz, in regard to this deliberation piece of our meeting this evening. We will, I think, it's in the best interests of everyone at this particular point that we will not be deliberating at the meeting this evening, and that we will move the deliberations to April 7th. That's been scheduled already and put on our city calendar. There's a couple of reasons why I'm going to make this decision to change this deliberation piece. We did have quite an intense meeting 2 nights ago. There was a lot to digest from DPW, and I think there were some other issues that took place in prior meetings that people need to think about and deliberate and go back and get a little bit more prepared. I know my head is spinning at this point. I'm hoping yours is not, but I feel particularly comfortable with moving this out to April 7th. So if all of you agree to do that, I would be very grateful, and we'll just have a short meeting this evening with Community and Economic Development with MJ Adams. Does anybody have an objection to moving our deliberations to next Thursday?
I don't have an objection to doing it. I will just note, I really wish I was informed of this earlier, because I set up childcare because I expected this to go on longer than it is, and my wife does go to work, which I can now, I guess, cancel is fine. I just I understand the motivation behind it and the reasoning behind it. I just really wish there was maybe like a phone call earlier, or whenever this was decided would have been, I think, a little bit more appropriate than when the meeting is actually starting. That's
okay,
all.
So I have to take the responsibility for that. I did get a phone call this morning, mid-morning, from the clerk's office, and there was some confusion about all the agenda pieces that have been set up at this point. Okay. So I do apologize to you. I am very sorry about that, and I'll try not to let it happen again, because we have another 4 more weeks of these meetings, basically. Exactly. So if it's you can the committee can vote. I mean, you can say we'd rather deliberate this evening if you'd like to get started with it. That is your prerogative. That's why I'm throwing it out to you. I'm telling you what I would like to do, but if you would like to do something different, that's perfectly okay. We just need to vote on it.
No, I mean, no, I mean, I think it's smart. I will say personally, I thought it was a little, for the exact reasons you're saying, seemed a little rushed to go straight to deliberation. I do agree with the idea behind it.
Okay. It is very compressed and very compact process. And it did occur to me that there was a lot to digest after our last meeting. So is everybody else comfortable with this? Okay. All right. Well, we are going to move forward then with MJ Adams, who has a presentation for us on community and economic development. The request for the capital budget is to appropriate $25,000 from 8402 capital stabilization for an ADA architectural study of City Hall. MJ, I can't see you, but I know you're out there. So there you are. So please, would you address us and let us know what's going on? We'd appreciate that very much.
Sure. I'm here tonight just to talk a little bit and see if we might be able to identify some funding resources so that we can do some work to start tackling some of the items that were addressed in our ADA transition plan and self-assessment that we completed in 2019. So the ADA self-assessment and transition plan is a requirement that communities do an evaluation of ourselves, of our facilities and our programs to see what we need to do to start tackling and making sure that we're working towards coming into compliance with the requirements on handicap ADA accessibility for our programs and facilities. When we had the report done, it was done by the planning agency out in Berkshire County. They had a person who was a building commissioner who worked on some of the evaluation of some of the municipal buildings. And out of that came a series of deficiencies that were identified for several of the municipal buildings. And we decided that we would put forward a request to start to tackle the City Hall. It's called Town Hall in the report, but we call it City Hall now. And the idea is to bring an architect on board and have them do a more detailed study about what are the technical issues that need to be addressed, and provide some, a registered architect to take a look at the building itself and to come up with cost estimates and some solid cost estimates on what we need to do to bring that building more into compliance with ADA requirements. So that's where we are tonight. The source of this, it's coming out of my department. There's actually some discussion about what department it should come out of. Lindsay Warner, right, Lindsay. I was looking at Marlo. Lindsay Rowe in my office serves as the city's ADA coordinator and works with the Commission on Disability Access every month. And so I guess it was decided that it would be my request that we would put forward, but it is a city-owned building, and we'll certainly need to be working closely with Central Services and the Department of Public Works to move forward.
I'd like to ask whoever is participating, would you please mute? Thank you.
So like I said, this would be simply to bring on to hire a registered architect who would do a review of the building and come up with more specific cost estimate and plans for what needs to be done to bring it into compliance. And we would also be looking around the exterior of the building. We've been talking about access into the building from the parking areas and trying to make it work for the community and the building.
MJ, can you give us an example of something that would need to be changed at City Hall?
We could talk about the ramp. Oh, I'm sorry. The mayor wants to talk. I'll defer to my.
It's okay. It's okay. Mayor, I'm gonna ask MJ to continue if I could.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I'm happy to participate and provide some explanations too, if she wants me to. That's all I was going to say.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we need to address the approach and entrance. The suggested action, this is coming out of the transition plan, is to remove obstruction and accessible routes, repair surfaces, access to goods and services. We have to make sure there's interior accessible routes within the building. We have to do some reconfiguration of the entrances to the restrooms. And we know that we want to do some work on the ramp on the exterior. But I think a registered architect who comes in and takes a look at that really has a much more studied and understanding eye of what needs to be done to make that building more accessible, more friendly and accessible.
Thank you. Does anybody else in Ways and Means have any questions or comments? Councillor Healy.
I always take the stairs, so I don't know the answer to this. Is there an elevator in that building?
There is.
Okay. So, when you get into ADA accessibility, there's a lot of things that come in, right? So drinking fountains, have those all been upgraded to ADA accessible drinking fountains?
Marlo's saying yes.
Okay. So there's a whole quarry of things. In the bathrooms, you need a 5-foot turning radius for wheelchairs. So, those are the things that are going to come in. If you don't have that, you're going to have to basically blow out walls to make it accessible for handicap. It can be a very expensive project, but the good news is if you do it ahead of time, if you ever go to do renovations to the building, if your renovations exceed a third of the cost of the building, then you have to do it anyways, right? So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, but I also think that it's it feels like we want to make this building in compliance. We want to bring it into compliance. We want to honor the intent of the ADA accessibility requirements.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. But it could be a very endeavoring approach. So you might want to consider doing it in multiple phases, whether it's the first floor first, you have the meeting room on the second floor, which has an elevator, but if you have bathrooms on the second floor, you want to think about how you're going to phase that because it could get very expensive very quickly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else that has any comments or questions?
Chris?
Yep, Councilor Jasorga, go right ahead.
So I worked on this, on the transition plan. We actually spent, I think, $40,000 with Berkshire Group to get the transition plan done. And they listed what needed to be done in the public buildings, particularly the ones where there were meetings. So 20 Sanderson Street actually has public meetings held in it and is listed as not accessible because it has an inaccessible route. There are Board of Health and Recreation Commission meetings there. And this is a 476-page treatise that's on the Commission with Disability Access, if anyone cares to look at it, but it does define actually what needed to be done in different buildings. It's why I kind of plug along saying we need to do these sidewalks and we need to do this. What have we done, or have we done any of the things at Sanderson Street that needed to be done?
We have not done any additional study of Sanderson Street. We thought we'd tackle Town Hall first. And we've been working all along on the sidewalk piece with DPW and putting some block grant towards that a couple of years ago. So we've been whittling away at it. But, City Hall is the prime civic government building that we have. So that's where I started.
Is there any intention to, because I had heard this, to expand DPW? I mean, to expand the town hall and put more of the offices from GSET, et cetera, more of the town offices into that building. Does that have anything to do with why we're looking at this right now? Because I imagine that when we get into this, this is an old building with multiple issues. And I imagine we're going to hit that cost item where the whole thing needs to be brought up to code in short order.
I am not aware of any plans to expand the building over at City Hall. The intent of this is entirely to address the ADA issues that have been identified.
Okay. And have we done any one of the 4 things that they suggested prior to this? No.
No.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Anything at all for MJ? We want to thank you for taking the time to be with us this evening and present your budget request. We
Okay.
appreciate what you do. Thank you very much.
The mayor, I thought I saw the mayor's hand up for a moment. Was I wrong?
Mayor, did you?
Oh,
You're all
No,
set.
you were, no, you were not wrong. I did have my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mayor, do you want to speak?
I was just going to add on to what MJ said. One of the things that may have caused this to come to the fore now versus, I don't know, later, is what we realized during the pandemic when the city hall was closed. And then when we reopened, but we had to reopen on a very limited basis, and people had to come in and they had to get, this was before, I think even before we put the drop box out there. Either way, the drop box is at the top of the ramp. We realized we were more conscious because we had people out there checking people in and so forth. Chief of Staff Letourneau was downstairs a lot during that time, observing people coming and going, because we had to do contact tracing, et cetera, et cetera. We realized how difficult it is for people in wheelchairs to go into the city hall. Councilor Healy is exactly right. It is an expensive endeavor once you get started. But what this study, it's a study, it's not a request for money to get everything done. It's a study to tell us how it would get done, what it would cost, what, to his points, what else would happen if we went down that pathway. There is a very nice looking, I'm very envious of it, document that was, I'm sure, commissioned under Mayor Martin about a addition to the back end of the city hall.
Oh.
Per Councilor DeSorder's, I believe, comment or question. And it's something that probably will happen someday and should happen, but we all understand where we're at the capital budget, with our capital budget and our requests. So it's not something that would happen, meaning in addition to the city hall. It's not something that would happen or is even in a plan. If you look at your capital budget, it goes out 2017. It's not in there right now. But we need to begin to gather information on whether that plan is reasonable or not. I haven't looked at it in quite some time, but I know we need more space in City Hall. And I know that we don't use space in City Hall right now efficiently. And if we begin to add staff in future years, we've got no place to put them. So, there are many things that need to happen with that city hall, but it's early stages. And this seemed really important to get that information first, because it is, as Councilor Healy mentioned, kind of it's the beginning that says, well, but then there's all these other issues. And we've never had to my knowledge, ever had a real learned eye on that piece of it. So that's why we brought it forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. Thank you, MJ. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll move on to item 7. We're going to skip over any of the deliberations on our capital budget considerations at this point. We'll move on to other business. Does anybody have any new business that is related to the Ways and Means Committee? Okay, then I'd like to announce that the next capital budget hearing will be Thursday, April 7th, 2022, 6 p.m. via WebEx. We will use all of that meeting time to deliberate the budget and pass on and vote to pass on recommendations to the council. The executive presentation of the operating budget will take place the following scheduled meeting, which is, I believe, Monday. Hang on here, just a second. Yes, that's correct. It will be on Monday, April 11th. That will be the start of the operating budget. The mayor will do the presentation, and we will be talking about executive budget. That again will be at 6 p.m. via WebEx. I do apologize to everyone who was inconvenienced this evening. I'm very sorry about that. I also want to thank you all for your patience. This is a difficult time, a lot of stuff to get through. So if there is no other business for us to take up at this point, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move to Sorger.
Second, Jarvis.
All in favor? Okay, any opposed or abstentions? All right, the meeting is closed at 6:21 p.m. Thank you all very much for being here, and thank you to a lot of people I see that are out there also watching our meeting. Thank you again for helping us to do our business. We really appreciate it. Good night, everybody.